All right. Today's the day that I answer your questions about marketing, copywriting, business building, and more. It's Mailbox Monday. And today's question comes from a longtime subscriber, Paul, who says, Roy, a quick question for you. I have a bunch of bass guitar books on Amazon, and sales are reasonably what I'd expect for the bass niche. It's a small niche. One of the things frustrating about selling on the Amazon platform is that you can't split test things like book descriptions. Any thoughts on how that might be achieved? Now, I get it. And at the same time, I think that there is some opportunity here. So it's a difficult situation, but I will do my best to provide good direction for you, Paul, and for anyone else that's interested in split testing on Amazon and other impossible platforms where they don't make that capability available. Don't forget, if you have a question you'd like to have answered in an upcoming episode, go to breakthroughmarketingsecrets.com/ask. Look for that link in the description. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you get more content like this delivered to you in the future. With that, let's dive into today's episode. These are the proven direct response marketing, copywriting, and entrepreneurship success strategies you can use today to write your own ticket and create the life you want. I am Roy Furr, and this is Breakthrough Marketing Secrets. Now, here's today's breakthrough. All right, so today's episode, as usual, is sponsored by me. Specifically, I want you to check the link in the description to freescientificadvertising.com. That's freescientificadvertising.com. Scientific Advertising is a book that was published in 1921, written by Claude Hopkins. And it is, written 80 years, I guess about 60 years before the internet was really created. 70, 80 years before the internet became a big thing, and it's still the best book on internet marketing. Why? Because the internet is like the world's largest post office hooked up to the world's largest copying machine or print shop, in that you can create this infinite variability of marketing messages to put out in the market, and you can test them. And the whole key to figuring out what works in marketing is testing. And the Claude Hopkins book, Scientific Advertising, lays out how to approach advertising marketing from a scientific mindset and how to test messages to figure out what's going to work best. As you can see, that is connected to the question I'm answering today. And I thought this book was so important, I decided to record an audiobook version of it for myself, and I'm sharing it with the world through freescientificadvertising.com. So check that link in the description. Getting back to Paul's question, there's this unfortunate truth about split testing on Amazon in that you can't do it. You just can't split test on Amazon for your book descriptions, for your product descriptions. It's just not available. That said, Amazon has huge upside. Number one, if you're selling books, it is many customers, including my own's, primary destination for going to buy books, right? Like it's just like the first thought. I want a book. Does Amazon have it, right? And it also has just an even bigger upside. No matter what your product or product category is, Amazon is the world's largest commercial intent search engine. Think about this. When somebody wants to go buy a product, they may type it into Google, or they may type it into Yahoo, or they may type it into Bing, or they may type it into whatever search engine they use, right? Or just their browser and wherever that sends them. But when somebody says, I want to buy a product, the most likely place for that person to go to, specifically to say, is this product available, is Amazon. Yes, there are plenty of other retailers out there, but Amazon is this place. It's the world's largest commercial intent search engine. People type in whatever product they want to buy on Amazon. So it's this huge marketplace for selling. It's like opening a shop in a mall. Somebody goes to a mall because they want to go shopping. Somebody goes to Amazon because they want to go shopping. And so there's an advantage to that. That said, many of the things that we come to rely on as direct marketers, as digital marketers, the ability, for example, to test between two messages and see what works best, those are not necessarily available to everybody through the Amazon platform. Even though, by the way, Amazon, one of the major things that made Amazon a success is that they did test so many, and they I believe still are testing so many different variations of, how do we use the screen real estate to maximize the cart value of each customer. That's not something that they make available to their sellers. So it would be great, but I would say don't hold your breath for it. Who knows how long it's going to take for that to ever become a reality. So let's. You're in this situation. You've committed. You're selling whatever on Amazon. In this case, Paul's case is books, right? But you can't specifically test your messages in that context. Well, that is creating this challenge. There's a challenge of any testing scenario like this. In that there are lots of ways that you can test your messages. There are plenty of ways that you can test your messages. The challenge is getting reliable results that translates, because in testing, one of the things that you learn is context matters a lot. That anytime that you are going to test any messaging, the context in which that messaging appears is going to have an influence over the results. So if you put the messaging somewhere else entirely, it's not necessarily going to translate over to this particular environment. That said, there are a few options that allow you to test on Amazon and especially off Amazon. So what can you test on Amazon? Well, you can test using Amazon ads. You can test using Amazon paid ads. You can have your books show up in the search listings. You can have your product show up in the search listings. You can use Amazon paid ads to drive traffic to your products and services. Now, the cool thing about this is, if search advertising is great because you're tying your advertisement to the intent of the searcher who is going in, they're typing in a keyword into whatever search engine, and they're going and buying something after that. Well, with Amazon being the world's largest commercial intent search engine, one of the cool things that happens there is you can say, okay, people who type in this keyword, how to play bass guitar, for example, are a high likely customer for my, how to play bass books, right? So I'm going to put my how to play bass books in front of those people. And so there's this high match between commercial intent, buyer intent, and being able to display the product right there. And so that can make Amazon ads really profitable if you have an offer that's very focused on the search terms that people are typing into Amazon. And you can control where you show up and with what message you show up using Amazon paid ads. Now, obviously, that's not the same as the description, but what you can do there is you can test ideas, you can test hooks, you can test anything that's going to capture the attention of your target market. And so what you're essentially doing is you're testing messaging, you're testing promises. And because you are in this ecosystem, it should reasonably translate, right? Obviously, a couple lines of copy are not necessarily going to translate to the full product description, but in a lot of cases, the full product description is not even something that somebody sees, especially when we're talking about books. They're seeing the very beginning of the product description and they have to click read more, right? So you could be testing for what is the most effective first thing to put in front of people. And then you have that, you take that line of copy that works in the Amazon ad and you put it at the top of your description, right? So you work it into the product description. One thing worth noting is Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Workweek. He actually came up with that and verified the title. It's kind of an old story at this point, and maybe you're familiar with it, but he verified the title of that using Google Ads. And so he tested a bunch of titles. He had some favorite titles, which were not the 4-Hour Workweek, but he tested some different titles and he ended up testing something about the 4-Hour Workweek or, how I work a 4-hour workweek or something like that, right? And he got the title of that book by actually specifically testing search ads. And then that created a brand that allowed him to leverage that into a much, much bigger thing than just that initial book. And so don't write off, just because you're only testing a small snippet of text, don't write off the power of testing those small snippets and the hooks that are going to grab people's attention. Now I'm going to give you a couple options. We're going to start with option 1 for how to test off of Amazon. And this is potentially more powerful, and at the same time, that first one, those Amazon ads are probably going to be a fairly profitable endeavor for you if you stay focused on very narrow keywords. Testing off Amazon can be a little bit more tricky, especially if you are driving paid traffic to it. So my first recommendation for you is to create a book page on your site. Like it's like a product page for the book, right? Here's the cover of the book. Here's my headline for the book, which should roughly match the book title. Here is the product description, all of that. And because you're trying to test for the descriptions, you should keep Amazon's limitations for the amount of copy that you can put in the description in mind as you write this, right? But you're creating a book page that's supposed to roughly approximate the stuff that you have control over on the Amazon book listing page, right? And then you can set up your split test there and have your call to action be to go to an Amazon page, or have your call to action be to a buy book. You may have to, in order for triggering like test tracking and all of that, depending on your platforms, either you're going to be able to trigger a conversion event based on when they click the button, which would be ideal here, and then you just redirect them over to Amazon. Or you're going to use a bridge page, or you can sell it internally if you want. You could sell the ebook version from your site and have a much higher margin on that, right? But what you're looking to do is you're looking to test the messaging. Yeah, you're looking to test the messaging, and so whatever it's going to take to figure out the technical aspect of which of these descriptions gets people most likely to click through to either an order page on your site or the Amazon page, right? And split test there for the micro conversion of the click. It's not necessarily going to match 1-for-1 with the number of people that would buy each individual version. But if you have one version of your product description that has a much higher click-through rate than another version of your product description, well, then that micro conversion is likely to lead to more sales, as long as you're not doing something like completely gimmicky to try and get the click. Like the whole point is, I'm trying to sell you this book in the description, right? And if one version of the book gets a lot more clicks, or one version of the description gets a lot more clicks, then it's much more likely to lead to conversions. And then you just take that winning description over to Amazon. Okay, so in my notes here, I'm realizing that I jumped ahead a little bit, and I combined my options 1 and option 2. I also have an option 3. So my option 2 of testing off Amazon was that you actually sell the book, and an additional point here that I had in my notes is you can even build that into a funnel, giving you better economics for testing. So, for example, you might build a funnel where you're selling the book, right? But then your upsell is a training program, or how to play bass lessons, online lessons, or something like that. That give you much better economics for testing versus just driving people back into the book itself. The other thing that I had here in my notes, I guess option 3 for testing off Amazon, is other paid ads platforms. So, for example, you could test a Facebook ad, right? You could test a Facebook ad where you write the description as if it were, an Amazon product listing or whatever, Amazon description for the book. What I would say is, even though I wanted to put this in here as an option, I'm going to dissuade you from doing it versus the other options. So probably number 1 option would be to test the hooks on Amazon through Amazon ads. Number 2 option would be to create like a book page, either sold through your site or that links them through to Amazon. And so this number 3, third priority option would be to, for example, put your description as your Facebook ad and run a Facebook ad. and I'm saying Facebook specifically because you have some flexibility in terms of copy length there. The downside to doing it this way is it's so far outside of the context of Amazon ads that I don't think that it's nearly as good of an option, because how you write an effective Facebook ad is different than how you're going to write an effective Amazon book description, right? And so because the context is so different, somebody scrolling and it's just the latest thing, the next thing in their newsfeed as they're scrolling through Facebook, that's a very different experience than I'm searching for how to play bass, right? And so if somebody's searching for how to play bass and you give them, here's how to play bass, we'll get you playing bass in 30 days or less. You're going to be playing bass riffs that are, going to make your lead guitarist drop his jaw or drop her jaw. Whatever you want to do, right? Like, the whole point being that how you write a description on Amazon is going to be very different than how you do it as a Facebook ad. And so it is an option, but I would strongly lean towards the other two first. All right. So with that, we're wrapping up. I hope that that's given you some good ideas and some good practices that you could play with to help improve that copy, even if you can't do a direct split test on Amazon. And don't forget, check out the links in the description to freescientificadvertising.com, as well as to ask your question for it to potentially be answered in an upcoming Mailbox Monday episode. I'm Roy Furr. This is Breakthrough Marketing Secrets. Like and subscribe so you get more content like this delivered to you every day in every episode. I'm here trying to help you increase your marketing genius and finding ways to test when they're not so obviously available. Well, it's going to get you some genius results. So I hope that I've done that here. I will catch you again in the next episode. Thank you once again for tuning in to this daily episode of Breakthrough Marketing Secrets. Remember, check out the links with this episode for even more value. Now make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe, and engage in every way you can to keep this show going and growing and delivering daily value to you. I'll catch you soon for your next big breakthrough.